Imagine opening your Google Ads account and seeing 30 conversions. At first, that sounds encouraging, right? But then you look more closely and discover that most of these conversions were people just clicking around or clicking a phone number, opening maybe the contact page, or starting a form without submitting it, or spending a certain amount of time on the website. You generated 30 conversions inside Google Ads, but actually none of those conversions translated into customers. Was Google Ads broken? Not necessarily. The campaign may have been doing exactly what it was instructed to do. The problem was maybe it was given the wrong definition of success. And that's why before you choose a campaign type or research keywords, write an ad, or set a daily budget, you need to answer a much more important question. And that is, what exactly should this campaign produce for my business? By the end of this video, you will be able to answer that question, hopefully very clearly. We will define the business objective, the offer, the valuable customer action, the real conversion, and the signal Google Ads should eventually optimize towards. Let's get started. When you create a campaign, Google Ads may ask you to select an objective such as sales, leads, or website traffic. That selection is useful because it helps Google recommend campaign types, settings, and the features that may fit that specific objective. But choosing leads does not actually mean you have fully defined your goal. A roofing company, a dentist, or maybe a software company could all choose leads as their campaign objective, but they all need completely different results. The roofer may want inspection requests from homeowners inside a particular service area. The dentist may want booked consultation for dental implants, maybe. The software company, on the other hand, may want product demonstrations from businesses with maybe at least 50 employees, right? The platform objective happens to be the same, but the offer, the customer conversion action, or qualification criteria, or maybe the economic value of these conversions are completely different. So before we translate the marketing or business goal into Google Ads, we really need to define it outside of Google Ads first. So step number one is to define your business outcome. Start with this sentence. This campaign should help the business ... Now you're going to have to complete it, and try not to use vague answers such as get more traffic, or this campaign should help the business create awareness or generate engagement, or even maybe just get more leads. Those statements may point in the right general direction, but they're not yet clear enough to guide a campaign. A better business outcome would sound like generate more residential roof replacement projects within our service area, or maybe acquire new customers for our high margin skincare bundles, or book consultations with businesses that meet our minimum size and budget requirements. You can notice that these statements really describe something the business actually values, not just something that can be counted inside an advertisement platform. Even more leads can be misleading. The business probably does not want every possible lead. It wants qualified leads for the right service, right? From the right location with a realistic chance of becoming profitable customers. So you really need to ask yourself what business results should be different 90 days from now. That should be your starting point. Once the business outcome is clear, you now need to define the offer. Google Ads does not really promote your entire business in the abstract. You have to understand that. It places a specific message in front of a specific person and asks that person to take a specific next step. So what exactly are you offering? We provide roofing services. It's not a particularly clear offer. Request a free roof inspection and replacement estimate from a licensed local contractor is much clearer. We sell furniture is really broad. Shop handcrafted solid wood dining tables with free delivery now gives the customer something specific to consider, right? Similarly, we offer business consulting. Is very vague if you are a consulting company, but book a strategy consultation for e-commerce companies generating more than $1 million annually is much more focused. So a strong offer essentially answers 4 questions. What are we offering? Who is it for? What problem does it solve? And what should the person do next? This decision, if you provide solid answers to the 4 questions, will eventually influence your keywords, your ad copy, landing page, campaign structure, and of course, conversion tracking as well. When the offer is vague, everything built on top of it is going to become vague too. But once the offer is clear, you can definitely identify the actions that show whether someone is genuinely interested in it. In step number 3, you have to map the customer journey. So for a local service business, this may look something like this. Someone clicks an ad, they visit your service page, and seeing what they like on the page, they may start a form. Then they're going to submit the form, and then they book an appointment, and the business qualifies the lead in the back end, and eventually that person could potentially become a real customer. For an e-commerce business, the journey will go something like an ad click happens, and then the person views the product, and then they decide to add the product to cart, and then checkout gets started, and a purchase will ultimately happen. All of those actions may be useful to measure, but you have to understand that they do not all represent the same level of value, right? A product page view tells us that someone looked at a product, and add to cart action shows more interest. A purchase, on the other hand, produces actual revenue. So those are 3 different stages, and we should not treat them as though they are interchangeable here. The same applies to lead generation campaigns. So clicking a telephone number is not necessarily the same as completing a meaningful call, right? Starting a form is not the same as submitting it. Submitting a form is not the same as becoming a real qualified sales opportunity. This is where most accounts become sometimes really confusing. They tend to label every measurable interaction as a conversion. And when you do that, suddenly the campaign appears more successful than the business actually is. A cleaner approach rather is to just separate these actions into 3 levels. So the first could be we have the diagnostic actions. These may include activities such as viewing an important page, or starting a form, or adding a product to cart, or clicking a telephone number, etc. By the very nature of these actions, we know that they can help us understand customer behavior, but they may be too weak to represent a campaign success. Second, we can have meaningful customer actions, right? These could include a completed purchase, a submitted code request, maybe a booked appointment, a completed application, or maybe a genuinely connected phone call, right? Third level of conversion action could have deeper business outcomes. So for a lead generation company, that could mean the lead was qualified, became a sales opportunity later, and eventually turned into a paying customer. Similarly, for e-commerce, it could mean revenue, profit, a new customer purchase, or maybe repeat sales. So you have to keep in mind, the closer the measurement gets to the real business outcome, the more useful it becomes, both from the context of your business as well as the Google Ads platform where you're launching these campaigns. Now that we have determined the levels of different conversion actions, we need to decide which actions should guide campaign optimization. In Google Ads, conversion actions can generally be treated as primary or secondary. A primary action is an action you are prepared to use as an important optimization signal. A secondary action, on the other hand, is normally something you still want to measure, but you do not want it treated as the campaign's main definition of success. For an e-commerce store, for example, the completed purchase would normally be the primary action. Add to cart, begin checkout, newsletter sign up, or product page engagement, etc. could remain secondary actions. They are useful diagnostic signals, but the business does not earn revenue simply because someone added an item to the cart, right? For a local service company, similarly, a completed estimate request, a booked appointment, or a properly defined phone call conversion might be primary conversion. A contact page visit, telephone number click, form start, or direction request may all can be categorized as secondary conversions. And for a B2B company, the initial primary action could look like a booked demonstration or a properly completed inquiry form. So here's the practical test. Would you be comfortable telling Google Please find me more people who are likely to complete this exact action. When the answer is yes, the action may be a suitable primary conversion. When the answer is not really, I only kind of want to observe it, then it probably belongs as a secondary conversion. However, you have to keep in mind that this does not really mean smaller actions are completely useless. It just means they should not automatically be given the same importance as a sale, a qualified inquiry, or a booked appointment that carries more weight and is really meaningful for the business. Step number 5 is to define quality of the conversion and any value associated with the conversion. We need to define what makes a conversion really valuable. Two-form submissions may look identical inside Google Ads, but they may produce completely different outcomes for a business. One, for example, could come, in the case of our home restoration company, it could come from a homeowner requesting a $20,000 roof replacement, right? The other could come from a renter outside the service area asking how to repair a roof themselves. So both people submitted the same form, but only one is really commercially valuable lead. The same problem exists in the e-commerce space. One order might contain a low margin accessory while other contains a high margin product bundle, right? So counting both as one purchase is accurate in terms of conversion volume, though it does not really tell us that they both produce different values. So the rule of thumb is to document the quality rules before launching the campaign. For lead generation, you can ask, what makes the lead qualified? Which services are we actually trying to sell? Which locations can we serve? Are there minimum budget, property, company size, or eligibility requirements? For e-commerce, similarly, you can ask, are we measuring the actual order value? Do certain products or customers have higher margins? Are we trying to acquire new customers, generate any sale, or maybe increase the total value of sales? You do not need a sophisticated offline conversion system right from the get-go or on day one, but you should know where the measurement needs to go, right? A lead generation business might begin by just measuring submitted forms or qualified calls. As its measurement matures, of course, it can definitely feed qualified leads or sales opportunities back into the Google system for the Google Ads system to glean insight from the first-party data and improve optimization signals. Now, just to give you a sense of how to build the campaign goal, let's put everything together using a local roofing company. The business outcome is to generate profitable residential roof replacement projects within our service area. And the offer can sound like a free roof inspection and replacement estimate for homeowners with an aging or damaged roof. The intended customer can likely be a homeowner inside one of the supported counties who is considering professional roof replacement. And the primary action could be a completed estimate request or a qualified phone call. Secondary actions could include click to call, form start, contact page visit, and maybe direction requests. And the qualification rule might sound like the person owns the property, lives within the service area, and is requesting a service the company actually provides. Now, we can turn all that into one clear campaign instruction that can go something like generate qualified roof inspection requests from homeowners in our service area, not simply website visits, telephone clicks, or every possible form submission. That is much more useful than saying, okay, we want leads. For an e-commerce company, similarly, the instruction might be generate purchases of our solid wood furniture from new customers using actual order revenue as the conversion value. Measure add to cart and checkout activity separately for campaign diagnosis. For a B2B software company, it might look like generate book demonstrations from companies that match our target profile and eventually measure which demonstrations become qualified and converted leads. So the whole point is, before you create your campaign, you need to make it a point to write your own version of that sentence. If you cannot clearly explain what you are paying Google Ads to produce, you are probably not ready to ask Google Ads to optimize for it. So just to give you a final recap, you have to remember the order. Your business outcome comes first. then you need to define the offer, and then the customer action needs to be defined, and then you have to map the right conversion signal or conversion goal to your campaign, and then ultimately you can have your optimization targets in place. Do not just begin with whatever is easiest to track. That's one of the mistakes most beginner level advertisers make within Google Ads. You have to begin with what the business actually needs, and then work backwards towards the clearest measurable action. Because you have to understand that a campaign can generate clicks, it can generate form submissions, it can even report a large number of conversions. But none of those numbers really matter unless they actually represent genuine progress for your business inside Google Ads. In the next lesson, we will take this foundation and use it to create the Google Ads account correctly, without really allowing the setup process to make these strategic decisions for us. So stay tuned, and I will see you next one. Have a wonderful day.